Stop. You won't believe what I just lived through, and trust me, you need to hear this. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe, turn on the notifications, and hit that like button, because what I'm about to tell you is something you won't find anywhere else. And I need to know your thoughts, so drop a comment below. Let's get into it. There are moments in life that hit you so hard, they leave you questioning everything. 1 second, I was just living a normal night. The next, my entire world was flipped upside down. What I discovered in my own house, something I never expected, shook me to my core. You think you know the people around you until you don't. What would you do if someone close to you harbored a secret so unsettling, so shocking, that it made you rethink every interaction you ever had with them? Because that's exactly what happened to me. And let me tell you, once you see something, you can't unsee it. The moment I stumbled upon the truth, I knew my life would never be the same. And here's the thing, this is a real story of infidelity, forbidden confessions, and the kind of shocking discovery that makes you question everything. Are you ready for this? Because once you hear what happened next, you won't look at relationships the same way ever again. It was supposed to be just another quiet night. You know those moments when everything seems perfectly normal, almost boring? That was me alone at home, my husband away on business, and just my stepson in the house. I had settled into my routine, enjoying the silence, when something shifted. Have you ever felt that eerie sensation, like the universe is about to throw something unexpected at you? That's exactly what happened. A moment so surreal, so out of place, that it changed everything I thought I knew about my life. At first, I ignored it. Just a small sound. Nothing alarming. Probably the house settling, I told myself. But then, there it was again. A faint noise, just enough to prick my senses. It's funny how we dismiss things that feel off, convincing ourselves that we're just imagining things. But instinct? Instinct doesn't lie. Something in me told me to follow the sound. And so I did, my heart beginning to race, my mind already trying to rationalize the unease creeping in. I walked down the hall, each step careful, my ears tuned to every creak of the floor. The sound was coming from my stepson's room. Strange. He was usually quiet, private even. But something was different tonight. As I approached the door, I hesitated. That split second of doubt. Should I knock? Should I just walk away? But curiosity, or maybe something deeper, kept me moving forward. And what I saw when I stepped inside, well, that's where the real story begins. Because right there in his hands was a picture of me. And the way he was looking at it, that's when my stomach dropped. For a moment, my mind refused to process what I was seeing. My stepson sitting on his bed, holding a picture of me like it was something sacred. It felt like stepping into a parallel reality, one where nothing made sense. Have you ever walked into a situation so absurd that your brain struggles to catch up? That was me. My instinct was to speak, to demand an explanation, but the words got stuck in my throat. Instead, I just stood there, frozen, the weight of confusion pressing down on me like a lead blanket. The air in the room was thick, electric, like the buildup before a storm. He must have sensed my shock because he jerked upright, his face twisting in something between fear and defiance. And then, just like that, the quiet shattered. What are you doing? My voice came out steadier than I felt, but inside, a tornado of emotions was forming. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he clenched the picture tighter, like a child caught red-handed. That's when I realized this wasn't just some harmless moment. This was something deeper, something unsettling. And then the words that sent a chill down my spine. "You weren't supposed to see this." His voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried a weight that made my skin crawl. You weren't supposed to see this. What did that even mean? My heart was pounding so loudly that I could barely hear my own thoughts. A million questions flooded my mind, but none of them formed into words. All I could do was stare at him, waiting, dreading, knowing that whatever came next would change everything. Then silence. A long, agonizing silence. The kind that stretches time, making seconds feel like hours. And in that moment, standing there in that room, I knew I had just stepped into something I wasn't ready for. I could feel my pulse in my throat, every beat a reminder that I was standing in the middle of something I didn't understand. My stepson kept staring at me, his grip on the picture tightening like he was afraid I'd snatch it away. And for a moment, neither of us spoke. It was one of those rare silences that say more than words ever could. The kind that makes your skin prickle, that tells you something is about to happen, something you can't take back. I wanted to speak, to demand an explanation, but part of me hesitated. Maybe because I already knew whatever he was about to say would change everything. Then he sighed, looking down at the picture like it held all the answers. "I didn't mean for you to find out," he muttered, his voice low, almost ashamed. My stomach twisted. Find out what exactly? My thoughts were running in circles, trying to piece together a puzzle I hadn't even realized existed. And yet, deep down, something in me already knew where this was going. You ever have that moment when all the signs were there, but you ignored them, only to have reality slap you in the face? That's what this felt like. A slow, creeping realization that made my breath hitch in my chest. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay steady. "How long has this been going on?" The words felt foreign leaving my lips, like they belonged to someone else. I didn't even know what I was asking about, his behavior, his feelings, whatever this strange, unspoken tension between us was. But he didn't hesitate. His eyes met mine, and in that single look I saw everything. "A long time," he admitted, and just like that, the last bit of normalcy shattered around me. I wanted to unhear it, to rewind time, to go back to before I walked down that hallway. But it was too late. The door had been opened, and there was no closing it now. My breath caught in my throat as his words sank in. A long time. What did that even mean? Weeks? Months? Years? I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, staring down into something I had no way of preparing for. And yet, a part of me couldn't look away. You ever have one of those moments where you realize you've been blind to something right in front of you? The signs were there, the way he looked at me, the small moments that I brushed off as nothing. But now, standing in the thick of it, I couldn't ignore what was happening. I forced myself to speak, to keep my voice calm even though my hands were trembling. "What exactly are you saying?" The question hung in the air like a challenge, daring him to answer. He hesitated, his jaw tightening like he was struggling against something inside him. And then, with a breath that felt like it took all his strength, he finally said it. "I can't stop thinking about you." The room shrank, the walls closing in, and suddenly, all the air had been sucked out. My body went cold, my mind screaming at me to wake up from this impossible moment. A nervous laugh almost escaped me, because this was insane. This couldn't be happening. But the way he looked at me, earnest, desperate, told me it wasn't a joke. It wasn't the misunderstanding. It was real, and that terrified me more than anything. You know that gut feeling that tells you to run? Every instinct I had was yelling at me to get out of there, to put as much space as possible between me and whatever was unfolding right in front of me. But I couldn't move, not yet. Not when I knew that whatever I did next would change both of our lives forever. So I did the only thing I could. I turned and walked away. My heart was hammering against my ribs, my mind racing with too many thoughts to count. But one thing was clear. This wasn't over. Not even close. I practically stumbled into my room, slamming the door behind me as if that would somehow keep reality from seeping in. My heart was racing so fast it felt like it might break through my ribs. This isn't real. This isn't happening. But no matter how many times I repeated that to myself, the truth lingered in the air like a storm cloud I couldn't outrun. You ever have one of those moments where your mind is screaming at you, telling you to make sense of something, but all you can feel is pure, raw panic? That was me, standing there, my hands shaking, trying to catch my breath. I pressed my palms against my temples, squeezing my eyes shut. Maybe if I didn't look, if I didn't think, I could erase the last 10 minutes of my life. But it didn't work. His words were still there. His voice. His confession. And worse, the intensity in his eyes. Like he had been carrying this for so long, just waiting for the moment to spill it all. I felt sick. Because no matter how shocking it was, I couldn't deny the weight of it. This wasn't just a fleeting thought or some childish crush. It was real to him. And that realization scared me more than anything. I knew I had to do something. Say something. Put an end to this before it spiraled further. But how? What do you even say in a situation like this? I wasn't just dealing with some awkward misunderstanding. This was deeper, messier. And the worst part? I could still feel the way he looked at me, like he was waiting for an answer, waiting for a reaction. A part of me wished I had screamed, yelled, made it clear that this could never happen. But instead, I ran. And that silence, that unanswered question, it only made things worse. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but deep down, I knew the truth. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And the worst part? I had no idea what was coming next. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. That look burned into my mind like a scar I couldn't erase. The weight of what had just happened pressed down on me, making it impossible to breathe. I kept telling myself that it was over, that it was just a moment of madness, a terrible misunderstanding that would fade with time. But deep down, I knew better. Some things don't just disappear. And this was one of them. Because no matter how hard I tried to convince myself otherwise, I knew that what I saw in his eyes wasn't going away. Morning came, but the tension didn't leave. It clung to the air, thick and suffocating, like the calm before a storm. I could hear him moving around the house, his footsteps hesitant, careful, like he didn't know how to face me now. And honestly, I didn't know how to face him either. You ever been in a situation so surreal that even the most basic things, like walking into the kitchen or pouring a cup of coffee, feel like landmines waiting to explode? That was my reality now. Every movement, every glance, was loaded with something unspoken, something I wasn't ready to deal with. I tried to go about my day like nothing had happened, like I hadn't just lived through one of the most disturbing moments of my life. But ignoring it didn't make it go away. If anything, it only made the silence louder. And then, just when I thought maybe, just maybe, I could breathe again, I felt his presence behind me. Close. Too close. A chill ran down my spine before I even turned around, because I already knew. I knew this conversation wasn't over. I knew that whatever was coming next would be even harder to escape. And in that moment, standing there, feeling his eyes on me, one thought ran through my mind. This was only the beginning. So let me ask you, what would you have done in my place? Would you have confronted the truth head-on, or would you have tried to pretend it never happened? Because if there's one thing I've learned from this, it's that ignoring the signs only makes things worse. Infidelity, cheating, forbidden confessions, these things don't just happen in movies. They happen in real life, in real families, and sometimes closer than you ever imagined. But here's the real question. How do you move forward after something like this? How do you rebuild trust when the very foundation of your reality has been shaken? Some wounds don't heal overnight. Some truths leave scars. But if there's one thing I know, it's that facing the truth, even when it's painful, is the only way to take back control. And trust me, I had no choice but to face mine. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced something that completely changed the way you see someone? Have you ever uncovered a truth so shocking that you couldn't look at a person the same way again? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if you found this story as eye-opening as I did living it, make sure to subscribe, turn on the notifications, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because trust me, this is just the beginning.